Appamada and its programs are supported by your generosity, and your generosity and support makes such a difference. You can find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org. Thank you.
Well, good morning to all. A couple of weeks ago at Inquiry, Suzanne Kilkus of the Open Door Sangha in Madison, which has been led for years by Flint, and has newly, over the last year, come to be very deeply connected with all of us here at Appamada who've been able to see Suzanne and other practitioners there and to enjoy what they have to offer. Suzanne said that they begin their weekly services by waving to each other. And I just invite everyone to please do that, to put your view on gallery view, just wave and enjoy the other people who are connected here today. So I see some very familiar faces and friends and others whom I've not met before. Bob, welcome. Bran, I don't think we've met, welcome. We have people here, lots, of course, in Austin, but there's one in New Jersey, and one in Vancouver, and one in Switzerland. And of course, Nancy in Dallas. So, whoever I'm missing, welcome, and I'm so glad to have you here. So, on Friday of this week, I brought in a reading from Joko Beck that had been shared in a practice discussion group that I take part in on Tuesday afternoons with Flint and several other folks, longtime practitioners, and most of them well known to me through Appamada and vice versa. It's a very intimate group with deep connections. And as part of that group, Sandra Medina Bocanel had shared a quote from the new book by Joko Beck, which I don't have handy, but it's from the first chapter, and it's Joko's reflections on meeting difficult thoughts. And she says, whatever it is, just feel it. Just go ahead and feel it as fully as you need to. And I was going to read that during the second sitting period on Friday, because I love it when Peg does that. I love it when other people share things that are enlivening their practice. But as I was about to read it, I realized that I was in the presence online of people who were undergoing great difficulty. People who had lost loved ones, people facing intractable pain, people dealing with diagnoses of very difficult disease. And I thought at the time that what I had to offer would be glib, and that there was not enough within me to match the gravity of the situation that I would be speaking into. So I held it back. Today I want to offer something almost along the same line. And again, I hope you will bear with me on this. Because it will sound, I was discussing this with Suzanne Kilkus later on. And she's in a very difficult medical situation. And she read that quote, and I asked her how it landed. And she said, it seemed kind of sharp to me. It seemed kind of judgmental. I'm not going to read that particular thing now. I actually don't have it with me. But I hope that nothing I say will come across that way. So I've been reading a book called Nothing is Hidden, written by Barry Magid decades ago. He was a student of Joko Beck's. He's a psychoanalyst who's been practicing in New York for decades. And he started a Zen center in New York, connected with Joko Beck's lineage. And he's got psychotherapy as his profession and Zen practice as his real vocation. And he's written several books trying to bridge what he sees as the gaps between those two disciplines, because he thinks they're both absolutely necessary. Dr. Majid says that before he trained with Joko, he was used to hearing in Zen in particular, and Buddhist circles in general, that psychological investigation, talking about your feelings, talking about thoughts that arise and so on, as mere psychology. But then he learned from Joko, he says, that Zen practice, without taking care of ourselves, without meeting those exiled and difficult parts of ourselves, self-critical voices, shame, regret, fear, without inviting those in, that amounts to what John Tarrant has called spiritual bypassing. That we run the risk of using Zen practice, sitting practice, as another escape, like alcohol, like drugs, like whatever it is that we do to avoid difficult feelings. And Zen can be that too for some people. Joko argued again and again. So he says that the psychotherapy and psychology offer a lot of benefits for each other. He says within our modern society, there's a lot of talk about psyche, about parts of ourselves, difficult parts of ourselves. And that what we don't have in that is what Zen can offer, which is the connection to our innate spaciousness, to the fact that we are not just what our thoughts are, that we are, in fact, everything all at once. And so today I want to offer a meditative practice that will draw on both aspects of this. And I want to ask you to first see if you can contact within yourself the biggest mind that is there. And you might want to talk to those parts of yourself first that resist connecting with big mind. That say, oh, that's trivial, or I don't know what that is, or whatever. And just open up to think. Just spend a moment and think about how you are connected through the air you breathe, through the molecules in your body. You are connected to all of life, and in fact, to all of the universe from the very beginning of time. This is not pretty talk, it's simply the truth. And this moment that you are living in, we think of it as being in a line that's passing from the future into the past. There's this little break in that train, which is this moment, and it gets added on to what's going into the past. In fact, there will never be a moment like this for you, for the entire universe. You are living eternity right now. It's utterly unique and irreplaceable. And as you sit here, your body is the expression of the entire universe, married to the thoughts and feelings that you've accumulated over time. And there's both these connections that can feel so heavy, and this emptiness and freedom. So I'm going to ask you to draw on that sense of spaciousness in a moment. Well, I want to talk about a practice that I've used many times over the years. It's called Tonglen. It's a Tibetan practice for dealing with difficult thoughts. Um, and it involves two phases related to breathing. You breathe in, holding a difficult thought in your mind. And while you're doing that, you let that thought, you relax your resistance against that thought. You let the thought be as bad as it has to be, as painful as it has to be. And you feel it in your body. You're doing that while you breathe in. Then there will be a breath or a pause before you exhale. And pay attention to the beginning of the sensation of exhaling. And the sensation of exhaling and how that is a release. And as you breathe out, you are releasing the emotional force of that thought. You're not making it go away. You are releasing it. It's going into space. It's going into the spaciousness that is you, that is all around you, that is inseparable from you. So, if you feel like it, you might do Tonglen with a thought, a recollection of something that you did in the past that you regret. Breathe in, feeling the feelings in your body that arise. This is something that Joko talks about a lot. That what we call feelings are, or what we call emotions, are a place in our minds, bodies, where thought joins a bodily feeling. And that interaction is very complex, self-reinforcing, mostly confusing for us. But this is something to be able to remember, that you have feelings in your body, you have thoughts in your mind, they are connecting with each other. That doesn't mean that they are eternally the same, or eternally true. So invite some feeling in, if you will. And as you breathe in, feel it heavy. Feel it very hot. Sensations that you don't want, let them be there with that feeling. And as that in-breath comes in, eventually it will stop. And you will come to a pause. And then wait with this watching capacity of your mind, which you've already engaged. With this watching capacity, wait to feel in your body when the exhale will start. It may be very brief, it may be a while. But when that exhale starts, holding the same thought that you were holding in heaviness, heat, and the difficulty of it, let it flow out in spaciousness, and coolness, and in the innate freedom that you have. And do that 10 times. I'm going to offer what I know is a trivial example of myself. I'm ashamed when I bow at the bowing mat. I see how other people do it so gracefully. And I glance over at the screen and I see how clumsy I look, creaky and old and ugly I am. And so right now I'm thinking that feeling and letting it in. As I breathe in, it's heavy, kind of scalding. As I breathe out, it's still there, but space is around it. That thought is not me, it's a thought. So if you're like me, you have a whole catalog of things you can bring up now to feel ashamed about, to criticize yourself over. You can criticize yourself for the scatteredness of that feeling. You can criticize yourself for the way that you do everything. There's a book that I've read that says the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And this is by Sherry Huber, which is utterly chilling to me, since I hate the way I do things. In parts of myself. There's a very active self-critical part. It's always going on about that. And when I think of that phrase, it's like, oh crap, that's the way I do everything. But remember, that's not all of you. The next step in Tonglen is awakening. The first step in Tonglen is a practice of awakening self-compassion and loving kindness. You have met a part of yourself with a practice that offers you a path toward recognition, investigation, and the non-self quality that comes from RAIN. That acronym for recognize, acknowledge, investigate, non-identify. You've offered that to yourself. And I suspect that as you're sitting doing that practice, that you will come to remember the people you love around you who often will have had or expressed similar thoughts, similar pain. You will feel connected with them. So in the next phase of the Tonglen practice, think of people that you care about and the losses they've experienced, and the fear they've experienced, and the difficulties in their lives. And maybe even the way they may feel disconnected from you, opposed to you. And meet those feelings, hot and heavy and toxic, as they come in. And then as you breathe out, meet them in spaciousness and connection. This is the sort of practice that could be explored over many days in a in an intensity over many months and years, over a whole lifetime. But as with loving kindness practice in general, it begins with oneself, meeting all aspects of oneself, and opens to those we are closest to, and then to those we may feel neutral about, to those we have the greatest difficulties with, and then to all beings. So I would just ask you now to just sit with me for about 10 more minutes, practicing Tonglen for yourself, for those you love, for those you have difficulty with, for those you may not know, from whom or with whom you can awaken a connection through our shared humanness, and then finally through the whole world. And at the end of 10 minutes, I'll open this up for any reflections that anyone would like to offer. So I'm going to ring the bell 3 times, to mark the beginning, and 2 times at the end. Thank you, friends. If anyone has any reflections they would like to share with this group, I'm sure it would help us all. Kim, I see you raising your hand.
So I've been doing drawings about spiritual friendship, and in it is a drawing of life as it is, which is one of the reasons you need spiritual friendship. And I was kind of astonished at what I was seeing, life as it is. And so then I asked my wife, so what does it look like to you, life as it is? And it was totally different than mine. Mine was this person shooting arrows who might have been my father, and she saw a stream and a forest and rivers. Anyway, so that was a big surprise to me that we're not all seeing life as it is as the same thing, because I couldn't conceive of that until I heard her describe this life as it is. But as I did the Tonglen practice, I was breathing in this image of life as it is and trying to breathe out her image, which was so positive and wonderful. And that was fun to do. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this idea that life as it is isn't one thing to all of us, but I have a few more days to figure that out, I guess.
a certain number of days. I'm just guessing that you just feel knowing that everybody's different, paradoxically, makes you feel more connected. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, and finally I thought, well, that must be the truth, life as it is, and it must come to one thing, and it's really nice that even that varies as much as we all do, and that we can do something about it, which is the practice the Tonglen practice. We become like a filtering machine or a processing machine or something happens.
We are always processing machines, but this is a technique which allows for a different kind of filtering or processing, right? What you're saying. Mostly we do this unconsciously in ways that simply reinforce our prejudices.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So we just look for those things that make our view true.
Right. It's pretty hard to not do that. So this could be a way of not of opening the windows a little bit. Thank you, Kim. I see Becky's hand raised.
Oh,
You go,
good.
Becky.
Thank you. Yeah, I really want to say, Joel, that I appreciate the way that you introduced this, because in some of the kinds of encounters I've had before with the Tonglen, is that people introduce it by having you call up sort of the worst thing you ever experienced or something. And and when you're already in significant pain or emotional or physical, that doing so is a mistake. It just makes it like worse than whatever's going on for you. And so I really appreciated the gentle way that you introduced it. And I was able to use it real directly, even though at first I was sort of thinking, oh, I'm learning something, new, and I need to follow the instructions exactly and whatever. And instead, I quickly recognized that it is what I do when I'm in pain. And the variation for it for me is that I specifically look to draw the in breath directly to the place in my body that is the most in pain. And that when and I like take it right to that spot. And then when I do the breathing out release factor, right, that it comes from that place and leaves my body. And so I really appreciated it. And then the whole process of weaving it together with the meta uh, is particularly good. I mean, I use those myself, but in different kind of order than that is. But I really experienced that well, and I really loved being here doing it with the Sangha.
Mm.
So I just want to thank you for that.
I share that with you, the gratitude I'm feeling being with everyone sharing this with us. Thank you.
Rosemary.
Thank you. Looks like Rosemary is still muted.
Yeah, I unmuted her, but I think then we were tossling. Sorry.
Thank you, Maria. So I had two experiences recently that were kind of painful and really surprised me, emotionally painful. And they both involved not being able to do something perfectly and somebody trying to help me. And how emotionally upset I got within myself that, and it seemed to be that there was shame, there was humiliation. I could have been 10 years old the way I reacted within myself. I don't think it was noticeable. I'll just mention the first one. I was trying to make a flower arrangement with my pots, and a friend was there, and I was just so intent on making this arrangement perfect. And I dropped a pot, everything fell out, and she came running over to, and when I did that, I just was, felt a lot of shame and embarrassment. And she came running over to help me, and I was like, don't, don't come here. So anyway, that was the feeling that I worked with today in this meditation. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, I didn't want to keep this feeling around with me. It was really painful, and it was embarrassing in the moment. It was embarrassing that I even had it after when I thought of it. So it was like a double arrow thing. So today I brought it back, and it was very helpful because just deciding to allow it to expand on my in-breath, that alone reduced it somewhat because it was becoming less dense. And then holding it for a second, before I did the out breath. And then continuing to let it dissipate into the air, and not let it get away, because it's obviously it's a very old entrenched thing and it will come back, but just allowing it to I guess have its own space, and not be so ashamed of it that I try to, shove it under the rug. So it's there, but less intense. And yeah, that's what I worked with. Thank you.
Thank you. I mentioned I had the opportunity to meet someone in practice discussion earlier today. And as part of that discussion, I mentioned a very powerful experience I had here, sitting on a cushion over on the other side of the room. We were visited by Kosho McCall, who was then the abbot at the Austin Zen Center, who came east. He began by saying the ancient Zen joke. He sat down in his spot and he said, so, how is Zen in the East? Being 20 blocks to the east of where he normally would be sitting. I see that that's not cracking anybody up the way it did me at the time. I thought that was so great. Anyway, as part of his talk, he was talking about dealing with difficult feelings. I mean, he covered so much in one short talk. But at one point, he was talking about difficult feelings arising within himself. He said he had come to realize that he could not hate them away. And I think that's an important thing to also have in connection with this, with Tonglen practice, is to realize that for most of us who are not in a crisis at a given moment, if we are recalling something from the past that we don't like, we're not trying to get rid of it. We're not trying to make it go away and never show up again. We are just trying to hold it with the fullness of our capacities. I cannot imagine what Becky was describing. And as I say, what I have to offer from myself seems pretty trivial by comparison to that. And that's how I judge myself. But what you are offering, Rosemary, is not trivial. You're meeting a part of yourself that needs help, and that needs love and acknowledgement. That's not trivial. And you can't hate it away. And you shouldn't think that by doing Tonglen, this is going to make it go away. It's just a process of using a technique that's offered from very ancient wisdom for meeting the parts of ourselves that need to be met. So thank you. I see Nelda's hand is raised.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Yeah.
good morning, everyone. Joel, I really appreciate everything that everyone has said, especially your last statements that were something along the words of what most of us experience and acknowledged the capacities of most of us. But I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't remind us again that not everyone is most of us, that not everyone has the same capacities and capabilities to take a difficult psychological or emotional issue and bring it up voluntarily and sit with it. I was so grateful to Peg when my daughter killed herself, and I asked her about that. Would this practice have helped Mimi? That she said no. I was delighted to hear truth in that moment because I didn't want the spiritual delusion that this practice helps everybody in and of itself, or that this practice, even combined with psychotherapy, is able to help everyone in and of itself. So that doesn't minimize this practice, not by any means. It acknowledges its full value and worth in the right context, with the right skills, with the right maturity and growth. And I just wanted to point that out, that I appreciate that throughout your talk, you have acknowledged, and Kim did too, the differences in how life as it is different for different people. The challenges we hold that are huge to us are different to different people. And the capabilities and capacities are different for different people. And sometimes, and I just read an article on tricycle, I don't remember where I found it. I read articles so many different places, that sometimes meditation is the very worst thing that particular person can do at that particular time because they don't possess those particular skills to move forward. So thank you for letting me share that component.
No, I had never known that. Thank you.
John?
Yes. Thank you. I need to switch to the other room. Yes.
Okay, is that unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure how to say what I'm going to say, and saying that we're all different at different times in our lives is true, because I had trouble as I was going through it. I was using my mind to think back how I could have done it differently, or how I could change and make the situation better from a long time ago. So I'm not sure I was doing what would be useful in this exercise. As far as just sitting, I was not able to just sit without getting my mind involved and trying to fix it.
You love the truth. You're very hard on yourself about being honest and speaking truthfully and doing your very best. You love others and you want to repair relationships. That's what I'm hearing.
Thank you for that, Joel. I feel like listening is what I can do best right now. Pick up what I can from what other people are saying.
That's good. And know that everyone here probably has had experience with the difficulty that you were describing. And I'm guessing that others here are feeling the gratitude that I feel toward you and the appreciation for the quality of honesty and courageous self-examination that you are sharing with us.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, Joel.
Let us prepare for the closing sequence. I'm going to go get the book to read from and come back to this seat.